Well, hello there. Welcome. I feel like it's been a while since I've been at ye old regular time slot as I'm pouring myself some freshly brewed golden monkey tea for the working man here on a Friday. And by the way, I got this. I got this for a gift, a Mad Hatter mug that I'm digging. Hey, Perkins, welcome aboard today. Okay, why don't I just get to it? I don't have anything to share. TGIF indeed. If you did miss yesterday, I did do the first one of my rare but not so rare this week evening streams where I started looking over the first edition AD&D Dungeon Master's Guide. It's going to be a long haul. I'm not going to be covering everything, but I'm going to be covering a lot. So I did some of that. It was fun. Let's see what we got here. We're on my RPG Roundup multi-Reddit, where you can find that in the show notes if you're on YouTube, or you can go to reddit.com/user/hexedpressman, all one word, /m/RPG Roundup and / and then I'm on the new tab. Oh, let's see what we got here. Oh, this one, offering advice. Question the level of success of catching the bad guys. Well, let's see this one. This might be interesting. Give them a thumbs up. This is DM Academy, so just to be aware, they're kind of 5th edition focused. So if you don't hear otherwise, think of this as being, modern 5e D&D. This is posted by CathGirl379. A thieves guild has taken to extorting travelers from a neighboring city for ransom money, and a few have been killed. The PCs have put pressure on the thieves guild, and the guild in turn has handed over some people with a note that essentially says, "Here are the people responsible. We apologize for the trouble," in hopes that the PCs stop putting pressure on them. As the DM, you can hint that these guys are the actual guys who kidnapped and killed travelers, hoping for some profit on the sly against thieves guild rules, or random lower level guys in the guild who some of the upper guys don't like, aka fall guys. And then the actual guys who did it might already be dead at the thieves guild's hands, or maybe not. Or they could be innocent peasants who have been kidnapped and or who were bribed into taking the fall. Their families will be paid hush money by the guild, or something else entirely. Okay, well, I was kind of hoping there was a little bit more in here. It seems, I'm not sure what most things, I'm not sure what the purpose of the post is. Offering advice, I guess, yes, if you're in that specific situation. I will say that, hey, Jason, I will say that to try to translate this into a more general, say generic point, is that this is something that, reading that, hey, they handed over some guys. This happens, I think, in at least movies and things all the time, right? You put pressure, and this is I think in hard-boiled detective stories. In The Maltese Falcon, which is one of my favorite movies, the book is excellent. Also, there's a whole bit there where I think it's the same Spade. Spade is basically maneuvering these guys around into, well, we got to give the cops somebody. You can't have all these things happen without somebody taking the fall for it. We got to give somebody the cops. And that's kind of how he's working them, right? Well, it may not be the right person, but we got to give somebody the cops, somebody that they can make sense, wrap their minds around, put a case on, and then do it. And this is kind of the same thing. And it is an interesting idea because it's a way to certainly give your this opposing group legs, because they can use those maneuvers, and maybe the PCs will take it. Maybe it's the real guy. Maybe the Thieves Guild really isn't interested in doing this kind of business, and they are legitimately going to try to get out of it and punish those responsible for messing up their other things, because now you have the authorities snooping around and adventuring parties getting into their business when before they weren't. In sort of a Godfather, that whole old trope of the mafia and drugs, right? The classic mafia, we don't do drugs, it brings in bad heat, all this stuff. And then, well, I think it wasn't even the Godfather. This is even, I think, Goodfellas was one of the themes in there, where Henry Hill and those guys are handling drugs. The older mafia members didn't want to at least hear about it. They're probably fine for the kickbacks and they're part of the money cuts, but because it brings the wrong kind of heat, wrong kind of attention. So it's a good idea. I'm not sure if it was worthy of a post like this, but, whatever. Thumbs up anyway. Perkins says, I tend to post situation, leave it to the players to figure things out, not try to predetermine facts too much. Perkins, I don't think they're trying to predetermine facts. What they're simply saying is, in a situation where the party puts pressure on this guild, an option for the guild would be to turn over some guys to the players in at least outwardly good faith. This is not predetermining an outcome and saying, hey, this is something you could do. Really, I take it to mean, here's an idea for you. If you're wondering, well, the party are making these moves against the Thieves Guild for these things, one thing they could do is try to give them some troublemakers, give them up some guys, and say, here, these are the bad guys. This is what's going on. I don't take this to any kind of predetermination. It's really more of just a tactic. What do you do if some people are snooping around? Well, you can try to give them somebody to put the noose on, and then you can go back to your other business. Like I said, in the way that's you see in movies and other types of media. I don't think this is something like the players do something and then you're trying to predetermine some outcome of their specific actions. This is more like, what could a criminal group do if they are pressured? In this case, hey, they're kidnapping people. Maybe we're saying that's, if we say this is not their main source of income, and it may even be something like I said, we're comparing it to the kind of classic mafia and being sort of anti-drug dealing, that mobsters are going to start getting into drugs, but then if the main mafia comes out, maybe they give those guys up because they feel like this isn't worth the trouble, that kind of thing. That's how I read it. I don't think they were trying to predetermine really anything other than here's a tactic that those bad guys could use. This might be interesting. Also from DM Academy, tried to backtrack out of a dumb hook, prematurely ended a player's arc. Oh, this could be funny. This was posted by amnesia_SC. I found myself sending our players on a one-shot that I ended up hating. I leaned into what they thought the adventure was about and came up with a fun dilemma for the star of the show. Give up his magic to let another person defeat this big bad evil guy, or he could keep his magic, at which point he could either defeat the big bad evil guy on his own or just walk away, knowing that the big bad evil guy could be held off indefinitely until someone came to save the people. I didn't have time to really think this Sophie's choice out there, but I had fully expected him to keep his magic, his character typically being pretty whimsical and self-focused. However, he felt that although disappointing, his character would choose to sacrifice himself for someone in need. So now I don't know what to do. The player has said if I feel his arc is done, he'd be fine with rolling a new character, but he hopes that's not the case. That seems pretty lame to just be like, very noble of you, the end. I also don't want to Willy Wonka it, though, with, it was my test, my boy, you passed, you get the chocolate factory. Is there a way to facilitate a meaningful sacrifice without completely ending the character's adventuring career? Perkins, I don't think they're trying to. I don't think she's trying to predetermine what the party does. She was giving some options as to what the NPCs could do. It's. I think she's really just pointing out is here's an option that you may not have thought of. Here's something you can do you may not have thought of, which is they give up the people for reasons and then bullet points for the reasons. I don't think she's trying to predetermine what the party does, because this is really just particularly, you could say it's a canned response to the party doing anything. Thieves Guild's operating. There are these disappearances, and it's bringing unwanted attention in the form of the party who does whatever. And then as a consequence of the party doing whatever, here's an option that the NPCs might do, presuming that whatever the characters do is successful in some way. And one option is for them to try to cut loose. I don't think she was trying to predetermine. I feel like maybe we're just reading it differently, but I don't think that's what was going on. No, she wasn't asking a question, Perkins. She put it as offering advice, though there wasn't too much advice. So I tried to kind of generalize her point. There's no predetermination going on. Jason says, it seems like a clear opportunity to quest to get the character's magic back. Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of things. I think that you could even change the magic. Maybe that what they did, they defeated a big bad evil guy, clean up his magic. So maybe a god steps in and says, oh, that was great work. Do you want to be got to go the cleric route. Let me imbue you with some faith. Maybe there is a way to get the magic back. It's not just a magic goes off into the void and disappears. I think there's a lot of things you can do. It doesn't have to be and I don't know. I almost feel like the Willy Wonka example is a little bit unfair because Charlie has to go through some stuff. Those kids go through some stuff. And even though he only, to the extent he fails kind of the one time, I mean, it's a kind of a harrowing, fun though, sort of harrowing journey before the end of it. But yeah, and this is totally feels like, yeah, go on a quest. You did this, you saved the universe. When you have when your universe has active divinities in it, I think saying to somebody, you did. I feel like it feels a little bit like it doesn't have to be this, because I didn't love the way it turned out in the Harry Potter, or at least the movies. I haven't read the books. When basically Potter, spoilers for the end of the Harry Potter series, but I think, I forget what it is, but Potter kind of has to give himself up to defeat Voldemort, and then he's given kind of a choice. Oh, hey, you can just look, here's the afterlife, seems swell, or you can go back and kind of finish it. If you don't finish it, it's okay, because you kind of did the thing you really needed to do. But if you want to go back, that's cool. If you don't, right? And that felt a little bit, goofy to me. But at the same time, I feel like you could have something where, hey, this guy did this amazing thing. I don't know how he knew about this choice, but whatever is out there, then maybe you could kind of run that into some kind of quest. Jason says, a cleric or god of magic, even. Yeah, I mean, totally. There's all kinds of stuff to be done. And I don't think it would feel, clearly this player is not, and I think that's so here's the right, this is, the one thing, if you want to look at this and say, okay, well, this GM ended up in this spot, which is not ideal for either the GM or the player. How did they end up here? Well, they gave their players a choice, and they thought, well, they'll never do this thing. And then the players do that. And that happens all the time, right? You got to be ready. Don't put choices out there thinking there's no way they're going to take choice A or B. They're definitely going to take choice C, because at some time they're going to take choice C. And then you're going, oh, I didn't think they'd do that. Now what? So don't do that. You ask somebody to give up their magic for this thing, and then they actually go through with it, which I think is kind of a pretty cool ending. I mean, I talked about it. I did a short about it the other way. Somebody posted on TikTok and saying, were there any times in your gaming career where you had to essentially remove your character from the party, part ways with the party? And I did do that once. It was a second edition game back when I was in college, and there ended up a situation where we had a very much an edgelord kind of character, and he hated all the drow, and he was, I can still remember him being like, I hate the drow. And he was like, in the game, he was a heavy drinker. He was like an alcoholic. And I think he was either an elf or a half elf, and he just hated the drow. And for whatever reason, our GM, and he talked about this a lot, so I can't imagine how the GM was unaware of this drow hatred situation. At some point, we went up in a situation in which we're visiting a house. I don't even, and the thing is, this is, I think, the good thing, and maybe the interesting about it, is I don't remember much about either what happened before this incident or what happened after, but I remember the details of the thing itself, because it was so, I think, interesting, and it really made a high moment. We talk about like this player in this particular arc saying like, oh, this is kind of a bummer for me. I was not bummed out by my choice at all. The alternative, I think, would have been really cool too. And I sometimes even wonder, like, I wonder what would have turned out. But anyway, we were in some kind of house, and we're, I don't know, talking to people, doing something. And then some of the characters left, and some of us stayed behind. And when the characters left, one of them was this edgelord guy, and who left. And then we discovered there was a drow hiding, like a drow refugee, escapee. I think she was even a princess, something, hiding in this house. And of course, all the rest of us were like, oh my gosh, we can't let the edgelord know, because it's gonna come to blows. And there were some powerful kind of good creatures around this house. Like there was a unicorn, there was some other. We're like, okay, we can't, because we knew that if he found out his character, in the way edgelords are, was just single-minded, like kill all drow. So there wasn't going to be any like, oh, this is an exception to my rule, nothing like that. So we knew, okay, we got to keep this secret. We got to keep this secret from them. Now, the other part of the party had gone down. I think we were investigating leads. There might have been some kind of mystery. I don't remember. They ended up getting down and talking to some decidedly not nice hill giants and somebody else, but they didn't get in any fighting. But the upshot is I think in trying to curry favor with the party or get them on the side, that encounter, they essentially they informed on the drow. They're like, oh, well, you know what's happening, there's a drow over in that house. And they're like, the house we just came from. And of course the character goes, the drow guy's like, oh, kill all drow. And so it ended up being where I remember we took a smoke break at the time. People were smoking, so we took a smoke break, and we were out in the hallway. And I remember us talking about like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? So we had this kind of one, I think I might've been the alone PC actually back at the house. I don't remember if anybody else was there, but like I was there with the drow, and there was a unicorn and some other kind of high powered folk. And then there was sort of another side, and we knew that they were coming on, they were coming towards each other, and there was something that was going to be some kind of TPK mass battle destruction. It was coming, and I was new to this group too. I don't know if this was my first character there, but I had not played with them for a very long time. And so I remember this players talking about like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen? What do you think? Like, this is gonna be some kind of epic battle. We're all gonna die. Like, oh, we got like these hill giants match up against this thing, and but they got the unicorns pretty strong, and but they got this other thing. And like, and of course we're just these little, and we were not high level characters. We're just gonna be kind of caught in the mix. And then I was thinking about some more, and it probably helped that I was new, and just in terms of like, this character wasn't particularly I think he was a fairly new character into the game, and I went into the DM and I said, look, I'll take my character will go. We can write him off being that he takes the Drow priestess and they run to the hills and they have a little romantic happy ever after as they kind of run off into the sunset, and then we can kind of reset things. And so that's what we did. So rather than having a campaign ending I don't know if say campaign ending, but at least party ending, the TPK event, my character went off into the sunset with this Drow priestess, and maybe the unicorn came along too. But we basically we left. And that's how we settled it. And I was totally fine with that. I was fine with them, fine with it now. Part of me does wonder, like, I wonder how that battle would have gone if we'd had some big just scrum of all these different creatures hanging, coming in on different sides. It would have been sort of fun. But I, as the player, I thought, and I'm a newer player here. I don't have any big investment in my character. And this just seems to be, even if I did, I would have liked it because it's kind of a neat ending. If I think about that's how that character lived. He's him and the Drow priestess. Maybe they got married. Maybe they had little half Drow kids. Who knows? He's off. He did it. It was a fun ending to me because it was impactful on the game. I felt like, you feel like as a player that you are really doing something. Like, I feel like, I saved that situation. The GM had put something out there that was going to kill us all, and now it did. So I guess it's a really long-winded way, hey, Ian, of going back to that player. Like, I wouldn't feel bad. Maybe because it's a one-shot, and you feel like, I just kind of did that for a one-shot. It's not really meaningful. But I feel like for myself, that's kind of a cool end of story for that guy. No, Sorian says, it sounds neat, but also sounds kind of unfair for you. I don't think it was unfair at all because no one pressured. So just to go back to the story, nobody pressured me to do anything. I wasn't pressured. Everybody was pretty much like, this is what's going to happen. It's going to happen. No one was sitting there saying, oh my gosh, Todd, you have to jump on this grenade that we set up. It was just of my own volition. And maybe I felt like as the new player, and maybe I was the only one who stayed behind. Like, I kind of split off, and then this stuff happened. And, I felt like I was a little bit responsible for the, like, we got to protect the Drow princess instead of just handing her over. I don't remember exactly how all the interactions went. I did not feel like it was unfair to me because they're all choices that I made. There was no pressure. You can the GM kind of put us in that spot, but I don't know what I'd be interested to ask that GM, like, what did you think was going to happen when you had this situation come up? I'm not sure, but I made my choices and I was totally happy with it. I don't feel like it was unfair to me at all because nobody pressured me to do anything. Nobody said, like, you got to do this, or I didn't feel some kind of out of game pressure. People were kind of getting ready. We were kind of taking bets to see who was going to survive, was good going to win or evil going to win, or what was going to happen. And then I just said, you know what? Let's not do that. Let's not mutually destroy ourselves today. I'm okay with that. So I appreciate you feeling it was unfair, but I didn't feel like it. It was not unfortunate. And I think that, look, all the characters in these kind of games that peter out, or the campaign and something else goes on. Like, my character got this really small but kind of complete arc that I'm satisfied with. And I remember this character to this day, and there are tons of characters before and after that character that I don't remember a lick of. But I remember this guy, John of the Woods. I remember him. And the reason why I remember him is because he did this thing. And so, that's probably makes it worthwhile. And I almost want to tell some of these people that, like, you may not love that particular ending, but it's an ending you might remember that will live on in your gaming group when you sacrificed your magic against the big bad evil guy. And there are going to be a lot of other characters who are going to get, sure, they maybe get all that they want and all these things, but you might not remember them, or you're going to remember this. And I think that's something to be thought of, right? The legacy of that one character in my brain is a lot larger than other characters who I invested a bunch more time in and maybe didn't. And yet I remember this guy who I think I only spent a few sessions with. So All good in my book. But, everybody's different. And I'm not trying to say this person should have just swallowed it up. And if they weren't good with it, I'm glad that I think one nice thing too about that story, their story, is that they talked about it. And I think that's good that you could tell your GM, hey man, I did that and I thought it was the right thing to do, but I'm not really feeling it if that's just going to be the end, which is, I think, a nice thing to say. All right. Something from OSR, a Death and Dying variant rules. Give that a thumbs up. Kevin says, it's a moment of genuine heroism. Those are to be cherished. Absolutely. I'm totally with you on that. This was posted by Schunkelberger. Too often, I feel like D&D style games with HP and the like can dissolve into a whack-a-mole situation. There is no real penalty to going down during combat, and you usually have plenty of time to be healed and get back up. In the normal rules, you have a chance for 4+ rounds to be healed and get back up with no problem. This can lead to things like where it is tactically better for a low HP character to take the blow of a monster, as any excess damage is worthless and there's time to get back up and fighting. With this in mind, I'm really toying with the idea of the optional rules in the core book shown on a stream. Which stream? That either gives you 1 round to be stabilized with an int 17 check, or the one where you go down to 0 HP or dead straight out. I really like the idea of the tension that knowing you're only a few hit points away from certain death could give. It would make characters more likely to use healing items and spells before they actually went down or died. Community's thoughts on this? Okay, so this was a Shadow. Boy, can't get away from Shadow Dark. Okay, so this was a Shadow Dark subreddit that's a question that they posted in OSR in general. Well, I think that, the question still stands, though the assumptions behind the question are different, right? Most OSR games are pretty don't give you a ton of latitude on dying. It's usually 0 or maybe minus a little bit or something. They're not giving you a ton. This isn't the modern. I think he's going in from the modern D&D perspective, giving you a bunch of health saves. I've seen in terms of modern D&D, and I don't remember in Shadow Dark if they have a kind of exhaustion mechanic, but I thought one interesting idea, if you're coming from or you like that modern system of having multiple death saves, is that each time you're brought up, you're picking up levels of exhaustion. I thought that, or maybe each time you go down, you pick up a level of exhaustion. I think it's kind of a nice way of just simulating that you're getting up. You could just rule that you're down, you're not getting up in this combat. You could just say, like, it's a KO, basically. Like, you can get healed so you're not dying, but you're not jumping up and haha. And you can always do something like give fighters an extra bump. Like, fighters can just bump back up, but if you're not a fighter, you're KO'd, you're KO'd. Probably lots of ways to handle that. I don't remember. The stabilize with an intelligence 17 check seems kind of high for a check, but I don't know. But all right, I was hoping for something more. It's more of a question. Why do they put this with variant rules when really it's a question? In says they're like in the games where hit points is just the first level of resistance, with hit points generally being pretty low. And once hit points reach 0, you start taking damage to strength or some other sort of stress level. Yeah, I kind of like those too, though. I guess it's a balancing act between that kind of too little and too much, because and I don't remember, it probably depends on how depending on the system and how they are gauging loss of things like strength. Because one of the things that I like about that is, yeah, it's cool. You have this constitution, you have strength, you have these 3d6 based numbers, and you think, well, we don't ever use them. We just use the +1 or +2, and here's a way to use them. On the other hand, I've always felt like it was fiddly when you would gain or lose attributes kind of up and down, is you're tracking all those different modifiers, and those modifiers often cascade across, it's hitting my strength, so I went from +2 strength down to 0, +0 strength, but then I got to remember that when I'm rolling dice, because I have all my weapon numbers, they're all like whatever +2, and I have to remember now it's +0, or it can get kind of fiddly. Obviously in VTTs and stuff, you can probably get rid of all that, but sometimes a little bit fiddly, and then it does give everybody a lot higher of a starting number, since you're going to be starting with it. Maybe not, obviously it's 3d6 base, but an average of 10 plus your hit points amount of total health versus starting off with just 6. So which may be good, because then it extends your adventuring days, or maybe not, depending on how you look at it. Ian says, best with games that don't use a modifier like a roll under system. Yeah, that's true. Get rid of those. If you're not using the modifiers for like things like weapon damage or other things like that, then yeah, it's a lot. You just do is kind of just roll unders. Then yep. Okay, seeking advice for running D&D for a young kid. I don't have any, unfortunately. Let's get weird. Epic solo. Okay, no thank you. All right, this is a DM Academy one. I'm not really interested in that one. Adventure Prompts and Seeds. I'm not sure, but it looks like we're getting something out of this one, so I'll check this one out. Perkins says they've tried a few different death and dying rules. They like having the player do death saves and need another PC's help to get to 1 HP. Oh, that's kind of a cool idea. So, Perkins, if you death save, you just stabilize whatever negative number you're at, but you don't come back up. Is that correct? I think, and I guess that's what happens, right, in 5th edition too, right? It's you stabilize, you're still down, but you're not dying, and then somebody can come in and help you. I mean, the thing is, the modern, at least from the, my memory is far from perfect, but there's this the strategy of letting people go down to 0 and then bringing them back up or not. This concept of healing is kind of a healing, it being an inefficient strategy, is something that I feel like, at least from my read, is kind of new. I don't remember people, maybe because of the age I was playing at, I don't remember people getting into like, no, it's in and look, even now it might be more of an internet rules philosophy kind of thing where people picking apart everything, but I never thought it was people were not healing you because of the inefficiencies. Maybe the numbers have changed, and it depends on the numbers when you're a cleric and your hit numbers or whatever, but I remember people just kind of healing you like when you felt like you needed it and not waiting for you to go down because it's inefficient to heal during battle or something like that. So it seems like it feels to me like a relatively modern issue, but I'm not going to say authoritatively that I did all the reading on it. Bandits keep posted about a falling to 0 table. Oh, cool. I'll have to check that out. All right. So this is called The Call to Adventure. So this might be good. So here we go. This is designed by Helpful NPCs, which is at helpfulnpcs.com. So let's see, we're rolling some dice here. So there is an adventure afoot, and with adventure comes the opportunity for riches and renown. Bend your ear to the words of, and so we're here rolling a 6-sided die for a quest giver, which could be concerned townsfolk, an eccentric hermit, a gregarious tavern keep, a high priest, a royal family, or some village elders. Great. Terrible foes await. An evil plot is underway, masterminded by a or an ancient lich, a beguiling sorceress, a crafty demon, a fearsome dragon, a hulking giant, or an otherworldly horror. This wicked creature has cobbled together a great host of bestial marauders, or fanatical cultists, or ravenous undead, or reptilian monstrosities, savage orcs and goblins, or sadistic dark elves. The journey before you, gosh, got the hiccups. They've seized and occupied a ancient holy temple, or a Byzantine and enchanted tower, or a deep and twisting cavern, or a formidable, excuse my hiccups, an awesome fortress, or et cetera, et cetera. And then your troubles and travails, your adversaries are causing great mischief by butchering, terrorizing, and razing, conquering, enslaving, desecrating, corrupting, etc. They have absconded with a hostage key to their plot, and then we got who is their hostage, a diplomatic envoy, a gifted artisan, so on and so forth. You must foil the villain, defeat his minions, and rescue the captive. If you do not, we will be overcome when your foes ascend in form and power, or corrupt a potent relic, so on and so on. It's pretty cool. I mean, you're going to get a lot of the only, unfortunately, and I this is one of those things where I just think, I get it. You wanted to have it on a page, but all these quests are all the same, right? They're always taking a captive. They're always, I mean, just when you zoom out far enough, I mean, zoomed in, it's fine, but they're always going to have the same pieces to it. The person you got to rescue, the theme, I really like this. I just think that if you just had 2 pages, you could maybe flesh this out with giving some more options for, is there a captive? Because the other thing you can have is it's not a captive. Because you could think about, okay, what do they need, right? So here's where I would want to break this out further. And this is not, and I mean no disrespect to Helpful NPCs. I think this is great. I like the way they've laid it out. This is one of those things where I always feel like you did this. I'm sure this was a conscious thing, and I need to have it in 1 page, maybe so I can post it as an image or something. And I'm like, but if you had 2 pages, then you could have had, well, what do they need? Do they need an item? Do they need a captive? Do they need an item? Do they need an individual? Do they need something else? And then you could have some tables for that, which would then open up a bunch of options for you. How much time do you have might be another thing. But this is cool. I like it a lot. I just wish that, instead of factoring in the page size, they could have spread element, which we can do that ourselves. Brother Malachi, I think, asked what page. It's just a one pager. It's just was posted by helpful_NPC_Tom. So it's a single page. Maybe this is coming from something else. Okay, so it is coming from somewhere else. Never mind. All right, so this is actually, well, we'll take a look. Why not? I spent all that time on the on Shadow Dark, and they did not need any help from me. So let's shed a little light on this. It's called Character Case. Oh, interesting. So it's not a book at all. A tabletop gaming organizer for use with role-playing games like D&D, Pathfinder, and Savage Worlds. Let's see. There we go. Their goal is pretty substantial, but they've got a bunch of time left. I'm not going to play the video, but it looks like these kind of cool cases. So what is it? What is Character Case? Character Case is a multi-purpose organizer for tabletop role-play games. It's a place to keep your stuff so you don't forget it on game night. It looks cool, but it's tough enough to withstand a beating and affordable enough that you don't mind chucking it in the backseat of your car. Best of all, you can use it right at the table. We started selling them back in 2017. We've been sold out for a couple of years now. Now we're back to offer an upgraded case that is more scuff-resistant and in new colors. All right, so this is not a new product. Thanks for posting the link, Ian. It's not a new product, but it seems cool. So you got room for your book stuff, some minis, your dice, some kind of card size stuff, and maybe pens up there. That's cool. Oh, I like the minis part. As I didn't even notice a foam insert. Oh, and it's got, looks like you can open that up and add more stuff. All right, what do you get? You get a dice bag, you get a glowy D6, and obviously you get the case. Give me the case. Stretch goals. Got different colors. Oh, look at that. You get a nice little sort of briefcase. Cool. Well, helpful NPC. There you go. Jason says they already have this. It's just a clipboard container. What is it? Why does this need to be a Kickstarter? That's kind of a little bit cruel, Jason. Don't you think? I mean, sure. I mean, look, I don't think it's quite a, well, I guess it is a clipboard. It's giving it a little bit more. I mean, well, it doesn't have a clipboard. There's no clip here for the board. I think it's kind of nice. I don't know. I mean, I assume these are small guys. The whole point of Kickstarting, at least to me, is you're helping small folks get their products off the ground. And I think this is a lot closer to that than some other things I see on Kickstarter. I mean, granted, Kickstarter is basically now just a glorified pre-ordering, but, you know, oh, how much is it? Wait a minute, I didn't see. Okay, so yeah, it is $70 for the character case, glow and dark D6, and a dice bag. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's probably more than I would want to spend. I cannot tell a lie. The tote bag's only $20, which is interesting. But I mean, I think it's kind of cool. I again, probably richer for my blood, but if you wanted something to keep all your stuff straight, I mean, I suppose, like, what is this? This is kind of like a small version of just the backpack that you keep all your gaming stuff in. And the thing is about it, just, I'm not trying to hit on it, you know, hammer it too much, but you can't fit a bunch of your books in there. So presuming you're handling books, you can't. But if you had an iPad, I'm assuming most iPads and tablets would fit in there if you're doing things electronically, though not a laptop. I think it's cool. I mean, it's not for me, given that I'm mostly playing, almost always playing virtually anyway. But I'm not hating on them for having it. Like I said, people have kickstarted way more, I don't know, either dubious because of what it is or because they don't need the money. They don't need the actual kickstartering. Ian says, probably a nice gift. Yeah, I mean, look, if you wanted, look, here's the thing. Here's my use case for that. You want to get something for your GM. You're in a party of 5 or 6 players, or even 4, whatever, and you want to get something nice for your GM. Kickstart that, $70. Everybody turns in $15, and it's a nice gift. It's a bit more than a clipboard thing, Jason. Let's give them a little bit of credit, okay? I don't know what clipboard thing you have, but the ones I've seen are pretty bare bones. Now, granted, you're spending $50 more, so you could buy 3 or whatever of those clipboard things, but I'll give them a little bit. It's not quite just that. And it's got an embossed gaming stuff on it. I mean, look, people pay insane amounts of money for just a D6. People spend a lot of money. And there's always something cheaper. There's always something you could do. You could go get a 2-cent D6, or you can go spend $500 on a D6. Right? Everyone's got different things, but it is kind of cool. I feel like they got the little inserts and the way they do work fairly well. I think it's kind of neat. Is it worth $70? I don't know, but if the problem too is you're comparing it. There's no scale here, so they can't get a really great deal on production and things like that. Like, say, Office Depot can get on a bunch of clipboard protectors, so that they can get them for 5 cents or whatever insane number they get them at. These guys can't, so they have to pay probably not that far down from kind of retail price. I mean, it's cool. It's not for me, but I don't think it's like scam worthless. They're just out for you. Yeah, it's something that some people are going to find some value in. Now, the thing is, they're asking for 20 grand. Whether they got 20 days left, that seems like a high bar, but maybe that's what they have to get the numbers down. Hey, Catherine. Well, we were just going back and forth on a Kickstarter kind of DM booklet, or not booklet, I guess, container. That's probably, as Jason says, a glorified clipboard container. I think it's a little bit cool, but not worth what they're asking for. Okay, so Jason says it's more like solving a solved problem. I'll give you that, but like I said, I think it's okay. Like, people spend a lot on a purse. I mean, I think that argument's a little bit like, well, couldn't you just get like a plastic bag with a zipper, and why do you need a purse, right? People spend inordinate amounts of time on money on purses. And a lot of those purses are the exact same thing, some kind of cylindrical or squarish, whatever shape, just a big container with some kind of clasp or zipper on it and something to put it over your shoulder. You can find them for $5. You can find them for $5,000, right? So everything has that. And I feel like it's a little, I just feel like it's a little bit unfair to say, like, well, you could just use whatever. It's like, yeah, I could tell my wife, no, don't buy that purse. Buy this, take this burlap sack that we can tie in a knot. And here, I'll just add these, I'll add a couple of stretchy cords to it. And there's your purse. It's like, well, yeah, that technically, sure. But, people want to spend all the time. Catherine says they're very fancy purses, and I can't tell you why it feels different, but it does. I mean, I feel like everyone has good things. Like, I remember one time I have a couple of cousins. I used to, I was very close to both at one point now. Anyway, but at one point, one of them spent a lot of money on an iron, and just the other, me and his brother were just kind of laughing, like, an iron, like, what, you spending this much money on an iron? He was using, like, at the time, and this is back when people were actually still using CDs. He had an old stereo. And he had an old, like, CD Walkman, and you had to put the CD Walkman, like, on its side, and then he had this jerry rig of cords so that you get the CD sound from the CDs into his stereo system. Like, this is like old, just rigged setup that he's bouncing there to listen to music, and yet he bought himself a really expensive iron. So you could have gotten yourself a CD player, you could have, but that was what he chose to spend money on, right? So I think, yes, you could use a clipboard container from Office Max, or you could get this one that's got embossed with sort of a fantasy kind of D&D-ish style kind of symbolism, and it can hold some minis nicely, and you don't need to do whatever. It's fine. Like I said, too expensive for me, but I get the appeal. And I think it probably would make a nice gift. Perkins says they need to get about $286, $70 pledges. Yeah, they might be able to get there, but I think that price point may be working against them. But like I said, they're small. These are small things, so you don't have a ton of latitude on the pricing of each one, because you're not. You can't get the same. You can't get the bulk pricing that you would need to really lower the price, which is unfortunate, because some of the things are cool, kind of like hardback books and stuff. They're expensive, especially for smaller publishers. And it stinks that they're expensive, but the reason is they just they're expensive to make. And so at the scale, so we can't get the scale, All right. I'm not even really looking at this. Let's find some stuff to do. Leave those folks alone. Jason has realized his hypocrisy over having some very expensive luggage. If it's the luggage from Joe versus the volcano, Jason, I'm totally on board. I wish I had that luggage, and I would never let them go. we all have our stuff that we like to spend money on. It'll be interesting to see if that one, there's enough folks that want that kind of more expensive sort of folio container thing. Catherine, what numbers did you come up with on your calculations? How much would a book cost to print? Give us the stats. I'm curious. This might be interesting. A new take on lore. This is a house rule. This is posted by My Seven Letters. It says, ahoy! Anytime someone sees a weird tower, moldering tapestry, or odd statue and wants to see if their know-it-all magic user, antiquarian thief, or cloister cleric knows anything about it, I ask them to explain what they think it is. They'll make something up for the table, and then I roll in secret. Maybe 2 and 6 for most folks, 4 and 6 for bards, or people who have actual knowledge to determine if they're correct or not. I found that this has helped immersion and buy-in in our game world and also taken things in weird directions that I alone didn't think of. What say you? I think it's a really cool idea. I mean, it's not going to be for everybody. I tend to not throw actual things in front of the party that I have no idea what they are. So I won't. If I roll up that they're approaching a tower, I'm going to try to think up at least the surface of what the tower is before I throw it out there to them. That way I can give them, because some of it I think there's physical details I might want to get. If this is a Thulsa Dune snake cult tower, then I think I want that to, when I'm talking about what they see or the ruin or whatever, I want to be able to talk about it. So I don't know that I would just get there, but I think I could see kind of combining the two. And then I always have said it's great to use the best inspiration is going to come for your party. And so these kinds of tricks to get your party to inspire you is great. I would think in terms of the rolling, don't even roll. I mean, roll if you need to, just to let your party, I guess you need to roll for this is one of those things where it's almost the illusionary roll where you roll, but you don't really, it doesn't matter. I think we covered that in the DMG last night. If you're on that stream at one point, Gygax says, if you're a thief and you're if you're a thief and you're being indirectly or directly observed, you can say I'm hiding in shadows and I'll roll some dice, but the fact is you're not, because they can see you and you're just rolling dice because you're, the part, whatever, kind of for the players, just kind of fooling the player to a certain extent. And this kind of similar, roll them to make them feel like there's a chance. But what I would do is just, they could say what they think it is and then just pick and choose what you like out of that to add to it, if anything. And if not, don't. Either way, they'll never know whether they were totally successful or not. And then if you do take some elements of what they're saying and put it in, then they'll feel like they did something. So it's kind of, win-win, win-win. All right, so 150-page, 8.5 by 11, 100 copies of the finest quality, full color, heavy paper, $25.50 shipped, not sewn. All right, what vendor is that, Catherine? That's not a bad, terrible number. I'm thinking. Is that I forget the names? Is that like Fireball, or who's the other one? Oh, I can't remember the name of the printers that folks use. I can't remember the name, but I'd be curious to know who that was, because that isn't bad. But I like this take on lore. Oh, Mixem, right? Yeah, that's right. That's the other big one that I'm aware of. I think that's a great take on doing lore. Your miles may vary as much as how much you've got prepped and how much you want to kind of riff in. But I always think any excuses you can to kind of pick your party's brains, especially if it's kind of somewhat without them knowing you're picking their brains, is good. White Hack 4th edition is nearing completion. Last call for 3rd edition. Well, get your 3rd edition White Hacks if you need. I think I have maybe it's a 1st edition White Hack. John Battle recommended. Okay, I'd heard of Mixam a bunch. I know a lot of people print their zines at Mixam. I was thinking when I finally get my zine finished, I was going to print it at Mixam. So it's good to hear that people have good experiences with them. Oh, let's see. What do we got going on? Where are we at now? 46 minutes. We got some time left. I don't know what a rapscallion. What is anyone familiar with rapscallion from Magpie Games? I am not. How do I write and develop conflicting nations that feel different to the players? I mean, there's probably lots of things to do. Let's see. Whoops, stop that. Would you allow this homebrew at your table? I'm not even taking a look at that. Those are the things that, no offense to the folks that post them, because I know people love that, but I could not care less about, check my homebrew, or is this homebrew good or not? I don't know. When one of the PC's backstory is basically their own campaign. Races as historical cultures. I mean, that's pretty much where a lot of things were done with that anyway. Adventures of VTTs. Come on, there's got to be something good. I'm almost a box of Hot Pockets. Let me add it. Yeah, Hot Pockets unlocking exclusive in-game content for Magic. I think I saw this. Someone posted something on YouTube about this. I just kind of hope. I mean, even though I'm not really vested at all in one D&D at the moment, or 5th edition. Really, I'm not really planning on much of anything for those systems at the moment. But man, I hope it's not going to be something like unlock this special subclass for D&D by getting Hot Pockets. It's like, please stop. I mean, this is kind of bad already. Oh, wait a minute. There was a generator. Hold on. I went back up. Beep, beep. NPC generator updated at Chaos Gen. Okay. The Fantasy NPC generator, Chaos Gen, has had a large update, and most updates also carried through to D&D NPCs. The underlying tables have been refreshed and expanded, and there's a lot more sea-themed results. Well, there you go. There are filters for environment and ancestry. There's also now 4 options for showing NPC. The quick NPCs, a list of traits, a minimal one, and the travel companion, which is also a separate generator. And these tables are used in all sorts of other generators, such as people in a crowd. All right, well, let's open some links here. Let's check these out. Yeah, check them all out. I'm not familiar with Chaos Gen. Okay. Chaos Gen. Oh, so this is it right here. I was thinking this was a write-up about it, but nope, this is it. So we get some, let's read through a couple of these quick NPCs. Ian says, Beholders, brought to you by Gatorade, the Thirst Quencher. Yes. Mountain Dew presents. Yeah. A fantasy NPC with the name, quick physical trait, other characteristics, and current activity. All right, so we have a couple of these. I'll just generate some new ones just because. Mariposa Falone is a weak potter with fresh piercings on their arms. He is a skilled cook and is currently staring at plants. Okay. Flint is an immaculate human with a young cactus pet. They believe in play before work and are currently playing a board game. With an ornate belt and an ornate belt. Double ornate belt. That's good. You got to add in a little check if you're rolling on a table twice to see if you get the same result or not. But I like that. With an ornate belt and an ornate belt, Duron Shaith is a grumpy male elf witch. He loathes lizard folk and has a request for a character to be a mentor. I feel like these I need to tweak these for my own usages, but I always appreciate generators. Montaron Brushcloak is a prim sorcerer with a half-covered tattoo of a ship. He has an affinity for snakes and is currently making offerings to a deity of healing. I like the activities are good, though they're kind of all over the place. Like Charmaine, who's looking for a pet crazy sea turtle. I don't know if that means that they had a crazy sea turtle that ran away and it's her pet and she's looking for it, or this is like when she's walking around the plaza saying, "Does anyone sell crazy sea turtles? Because I want a pet." It's a little bit vague in that way, but I guess it just adds to the fun. Cather says, "Belts on belts. Duron is so fashion." Yep, he's on it. All right, so those are the quick ones. What are the traits? So here we have one. All right, so now we're getting these look like more stat blockish renderings. The name's Lynx Bansabar. Ancestry is human. Profession is a messenger. Descriptor is chaotic. Has an unusual hair color and maybe with expensive clothes. Loves the subject of ghosts. Hates undead. That's an interesting... Oh my goodness. Sometimes things you just get are just so good. Loves ghosts. Hates the undead. So maybe they love stories of ghosts being vanquished. Right? He's all about ghost hunters. The NPC is a notable of a society of were creatures. Wow, there's a twist. This is like That kind of, what was that movie, Underworld, with the werewolves versus the vampires? Possible hook seeks forbidden magical lore, currently asking for asking for directions. You know the way to Pismo Beach? All right, read one more of these. The sea turtle's just crazy about having more pets. I might like it. This is Verna Tea Leaf, who's a human treasure. Glum. Has a distinctive pair of pantaloons. Gotta love some pantaloons. And maybe with half-covered runes on their forehead. Ooh. Loves talking about wine. Hates dark secrets. If he is allergic to a common animal, possible hook has a message for a character currently tending to a tree. Tending to a tree. Okay. I love that they hate dark secrets. I have a dark secret. Well, then I hate you. All right, those were good. What's a minimal? I feel like they could separate these, give it a little bit of breathing room, and maybe a divider here between these ones. So minimal is just you get something even more, I guess, abbreviated. Wilhelma Purple Pija is a weathered human zealot who seeks to warn of an angry dragon, of the angry dragon, not just any angry dragon. Okay. And then we get a travel companion. I'm not sure what that is. Tom is an enthusiastic male illusionist with fashionable attire who's in a hurry to get to the same place as you, and then the village of Harrow Bridges, and then a nearby stepping stones, and then meet someone in Caves of Mantus. They are secretly a villain. All right, well, those are some very... I like how they start with something very vague. They're just trying to get to the same place you are, and then they have all these very specific setting kind of places where you're like, well, the place they're going is nowhere near anywhere named Harrow Bridges or a Cave of Mantus. But, you know, it's kind of funny. Jason says, white spaces for the week. Indeed. Catherine, I love wine nights and I hate liars. Yep, it is like a weird dating profile. Yes, these are good. These are good. You just know that you're going to have to kind of tweak these. Tweak to suit. So do these in advance. It's another one of those generators in the moment. Might not be as helpful as you want. However, given a few minutes or as part of your prep workflow, could come up with some really fun things. And then you can have a chance to kind of check all that stuff out. So that's the basic generator. Oh, then that's the quick. Okay, these are all things. What is this? People in a crowd. Okay, so this is kind of cool. Actually, I like this one a lot. So you're going to generate some guys. It's basically who's in a crowd. You know, someone, you come into the tavern, and every time your party runs in the tavern, if there anything like every group I've played or run, it's always you walk in a tavern. Who's in the tavern? Okay, let's generate. All right, you got a professorial looking dwarf over there, a quirky guy with a strong nose that's looking at some rocks, a priest of, I'm not sure how you know they're a priest of death, that one over there. There's some ragged human who's got a pair of shiny red boots. There's a dwarf in some bear furs. Yeah, you can kind of give all the list. Now, with something like this, you may get that kind of embarrassment of riches, in which case your party thinks all these people are super important, which they would sound like all these people sound like they would be the one person in the room who stands out. I would probably just pick a couple of these guys and have the rest be like, well, you got some farmers, got some locals, and then over there, you got this dwarf wearing bear furs who's yelling at a cat that they're carrying around in a wicker case, something like that, right? Because all those guys, your party's just going to freeze up with like, who do we talk to first? So, you know, have we talked about Dungeon Remasters Kickstarter yet? No, Catherine, I haven't talked about that, but it sounds like we're going to. I don't even know what Dungeon Remastered is, but let's plug it in the old, I guess, in my case, Bing machine. Am I going to need to make a Kickstarter kind of roundup program? Would people be interested in that? What's this? Oh, this is John Battle. Oh, you fooled me, Catherine. Okay, so this is, I don't know if I like this aesthetic of, you know, like we've come a long way since just printing things in just in what is the in single space, fixed width fonts. So this is all right, so let's go back here. Yes, Jason, it was berating a kitten. Okay, what is Dungeon Remastered? And I have no idea who John Battle is. I mean, it's a great name. If there's anybody who should be out making, has the name for making tabletop role-playing game accessories it's someone named John Battle. I don't know if I love the ASCII art though. So there's looks like this is ASCII art of, was it Sauron's eye? It ink pens is a little to the terminal. Oh, yeah, that's what it looks like. All right, welcome to the ruins of Anwin. The once populated hills of this massively multiplayer online game are now void. They call it a dead MMO. A polygonal mess of PS1 era graphics, empty planets, and dungeons that grow and grow and grow from the inside of the planet's wounds. Up above the eye of these sad god glares its chromatic light down upon the remaining players, while its tormented hand contorts into magical shapes, rarely crossing paths in their messy orbit. When they do, the shadow magic that powers the game explodes with its ancient might. This is a traditional tabletop role-playing game of playing in an MMO video game. It can be considered meta. But on its surface, where the system lives, you're still exploring a fantasy world, only it's filled and flavored with the fun quirks of a video game's world, like glitches, NPCs, and so on. The goal is to highlight and explore our relations with virtual and fictional worlds. When you sit to play Dungeon, you're logging up. When you wrap up a session, you've logged off, letting the world continue on in the background while you're busy with real life. In this way, you're not only playing as yourself, but you are always playing. Character creation consists of you creating a virtual avatar, assigning dice to your stats, and building out your role, DPS, tank, or support, before choosing your skills and gear. You also get to select an aspect card, which is a specialized tarot that grants you an ability based on your real life. The Beast, for instance, allows you to take the form of one of your pets, while the Magus can take on a physical trait from any tattoo on their body, meaning they can gain wings from an angel, or if you're like me, become ghostly like a haunter from Pokemon. Ian says it has a soundtrack on cassette. It knows its audience. Yes. Catherine says he's designed quite a few pretty interesting RPGs and zines. He's in that group with Jared Sinclair, Micah Anderson, vaguely postmodern games that are a real hoot in their opinion. So there is a playtest. NPCs are one-dimensional job havers and quest givers, just like in video games. Your skill and abilities have direct effects on them, allowing you to haggle, bargain, convince, and even repair tangle relationships with as little as a dice roll. So I guess there was already a version of this, and now we get remastered. The Touchstones, .hack, Bloodborne, Sable, Skyrim, Minecraft, Guild Wars 2, Pokemon Arceus, Serial Experiments Lane, Code Lyoko, The Guild, Fallout New Vegas, and Destiny. I'm only really aware of or have any experience with just a few of those. Shows where my head has been or not been. Now the book, I mean, the idea is cool. It does not seem like it's for me at all. Like I'll read it. Maybe I'll read it on stream just to give it, because I think it's interesting always to read things and that I'm maybe and like, hey, I'm not really into this, but I'll read it anyway. And this does not sound like it's for me, but I'll read it because it might end up some interesting things. I think conceptually I like what they're going for. It's weird because I can appreciate what they're doing, but I'm also thinking like, yeah, I don't think I'm really psyched to play it. I mean, this is something that if this came up at a con or somewhere, I'd be like, yeah, I'll play it, but I wouldn't seek it, go out of my way. Like, ooh, dungeon, let me go do that. It's like, yeah, I think for me, maybe it's because I never played a bunch of MMO RPGs. I mean, I've played some Skyrim, and I played a bunch of Destiny at points, but I didn't play a lot of any of the MMOs stuff. So I don't have, and I didn't watch a lot of those animes that were based on MMOs. So I don't have a great, I don't know, history with them or past or whatever would be that would mean me to go, yeah, this is what I want. But it seems like it's interesting. I will grab this. Well, I'll set a day next week. Ian says not weird enough. Oh, let me, I didn't even see what are the price. How much is this? I didn't even, before we leave this, is there anything, how much is it? Day one PDF for 20, 25 for, I guess, for the not day one PDF, and then physical books are 40. Oh, for day one. I don't understand why. Day one backers. I see. Oh, day one backers. I get it. So these are kind of like your early backer or pledges. Okay, so basically, if you miss the early period, it's $25 for the PDF and $50 for the physical book for the PDF. So pretty in line, I guess, with what other folks are doing. And if you want the cassette, it's another $50. I don't think I even have anything that I could listen to a cassette on at this point. No, Saurian's interested. Oh, Inkpen bought Steam, man. Mist on Steam. Is it an upgraded Mist? It's always funny to see this. I remember here going back, my cousin. I watched my cousin. I enjoyed my cousin would play Mist on his brother's 3DO. You remember that console? Vaunted console from ages back. And I was never really interested in playing Mist myself, but I did enjoy watching him play through Mist. And he got quite good at it and beat Mist. But man, and the graphics seemed like they were so amazing at the time. And then I think I saw them a few months ago. I was watching sometimes I like to go and look at people playing through old video games, kind of video games from my youth and stuff on YouTube. And I was watching something and I saw the thing for Mist and boy, it looked rough. Oh, that's nice. You have to earn the new Zelda. He's got to be Mist. Well done, Inkpen. I like it. 3DOs, the 3DO is super rare now. I don't know if my cousin, I wonder if his 3DO is still hanging around somewhere. He loved it back in the day. I'll definitely take a look at this. I will add this to my. Oh, I had logged out. All right, I'll do this later. I don't feel like doing all this now. I'll come back to you later. Thanks for the tip, Catherine. Oh, and we're basically at time. Oh, he's backed it. Ian, did you go for the cassette? Or are you just going for the Ian, what'd you do? Cassette? I mean, did you go for PDF and print, or the full Monty? Jason says, I feel like you only need 3 games on your shelf at any time. Something rules light, something mid to very crunchy in your homebrew. Yeah, I mean, that's not a bad way to look at it. I mean, I think there's kind of your bookshelf, maybe your practical bookshelf. I would maybe say, Jason, that's like for your bag, right? You have, though, I feel like I'm wondering. So in my current game based on BX with some homebrew by myself, I don't know if I need anything crunchier. I suppose I would say, okay, I'll look at either the first edition DMG and or the Rules Cyclopedia are great if I want to delve into something and get a little bit more crunch for a situation, or I don't want to just free form a ruling, but I'm looking for something kind of already made. Those would probably be the 2 that I would keep with me. But I like to read all kinds of stuff. But it would be interesting to have kind of like your shelf that's set aside where like, here's my current kind of gaming stuff, and then keep it to like one of those sort of IKEA cubes or that kind of cube shelf thing. Like this shelf is for this cube is just, I'm going to limit myself to these are the things that are kind of in my brain right now. And if it's not on that shelf, then I'll make it and I'll pick my sources and I'll go. It'll kind of be interesting, to kind of say, I mean, there's always the workaround of all the digital stuff so that, oh, wink, wink, it's not in the cube, but it's in my brain or it's in my tablet or whatever. But it would definitely be an interesting idea. All right, folks, I'm going to wrap this one up. Yeah, it's easy to keep a ton of PDFs, but there's always that moment where I'm somewhere and I'm like, oh, I don't have cell reception. I didn't download this version or something, and like, oh, but look, the book is here. It's always nice. I kind of do like having the books, but I try to be pretty picky in the books I buy because they're pricey, because they take up physical space. But whenever the apocalypse comes, those books, presuming they survive the apocalypse, will be there when all our digital stuff is lost to iClouds crashing into the surface of the moon. And with that gloriously upbeat note, I will call this a stream. If you give a thumbs up on your way out, that would be awesome. If you found yourself in here and not subscribed and you feel like subscribing, that would also be awesome. Otherwise, folks, everybody, have a great day, night, whenever you end up watching or listening to this. Game on, and I will talk to you later. Bye, everybody.